In an aquarium at night, when the building is empty, an octopus lifts the lid of its tank. It climbs out, it crosses the dry floor, which it is not built to do and which is slowly suffocating it, gets into a neighboring tank, eats the fish inside, climbs back out, returns across that same floor, and gets back into its own tank. In the morning, the staff find a tank of missing fish and an octopus sitting exactly where it should be. This has happened enough times in enough facilities that aquariums now design their lids specifically to stop it. Now the easy thing to say is that octopuses are smart. That's true, and it's also the least interesting part, because the real answer isn't that an octopus is intelligent like us, it's that an octopus is intelligent in a way that has almost nothing to do with us. It's a completely separate solution to the problem of having a mind built from different parts, running on different rules. If you want to know what an alien intelligence would actually be like, you don't need to look at space. There's one on this planet, in the water, and we eat it. Let's start with why it's so different, because that comes down to a fork in the road that happened a very long time ago. Go back roughly 500 million years. Somewhere in an ancient ocean there's a simple creature, and it is the last common ancestor of you and the octopus. It's not impressive, it has no real brain, just a scattering of nerves. And from that unremarkable animal, the lineage splits. One branch leads eventually to fish, then to amphibians, reptiles, mammals, primates, and to you. The other branch leads to mollusks, snails, clams, and, eventually, the octopus. Now think about what that means. Almost everything you consider intelligent, a dog, a crow, a dolphin, a chimp, is on your branch. They all inherited the same basic blueprint you did. A central brain, a spinal cord, a body organized around a skeleton. When a crow solves a puzzle, it's doing it with hardware that is fundamentally the same architecture as yours. The octopus isn't. Its side of the family produced clams. Its closest relatives are animals with no brain to speak of. And somewhere on that branch, an intelligence appeared anyway, built completely from scratch, using different components, with no reference to how we did it. Intelligence evolved twice on this planet, independently. We're one of those times. The octopus is the other. So what does the second version look like? Start with the number. An octopus has roughly 500 million neurons. That's a serious quantity. It puts it in the neighborhood of a dog. But here's where it stops resembling anything familiar. In your body, almost all of your neurons are in your head. Your brain runs the show, your nerves carry orders outward and information back, and the arrangement is basically a command center with cables. In an octopus, roughly 2/3 of those neurons are not in its head, they're in its arms. Each of the 8 arms contains its own dense cord of neurons, capable of processing information and generating behavior on its own. That's why people describe the octopus as having 9 brains, one central brain wrapped around its throat, and 8 semi-independent processors, one running down each limb. And this isn't a poetic description, it's functional. The arms genuinely act on their own. The most unsettling demonstration of this is what happens to a severed arm. A detached octopus arm continues to behave. It will reach, it will grip objects, it will recoil from something harmful. In laboratory observation, severed arms have been seen picking up food and attempting to move it toward a mouth that is no longer there. There is no brain attached. The arm is running its own program, and it keeps running it. Sit with that because it's genuinely difficult to think about. A part of this animal, cut off from the animal, still tries to feed it. So how does the whole thing work in practice? Something closer to delegation than command. The central brain appears to set intention. It decides that the animal is hunting, or hiding, or moving somewhere. But the specifics of how each arm accomplishes that are handled locally. An arm exploring a crevice figures out the crevice itself. It tastes what it touches, because octopus suckers have chemical receptors, meaning the arm can taste independently of the mouth. It identifies prey, grabs it, and passes it along, and the central brain doesn't have to be consulted about any of it. Now hold that thought, because it raises a question with no comfortable answer. Where is the octopus? When your arm moves, you moved it. There's a single you issuing that instruction. But if an octopus arm can taste, decide, and act without the central brain, then the octopus isn't one thinker with 8 tools. It might be something more like 9 things cooperating. Does the central brain know what each arm is touching? The evidence suggests it doesn't, not in detail. It may know roughly where the arms are and what they're accomplishing without receiving the full stream of information the arms are working from. So there may be experiences experience happening in that animal that the animal, centrally, isn't fully aware of. Try to imagine your hand tasting something and making a decision about it, and you never find out. That's not a version of consciousness we have any real language for, and it gets stranger, because the arms aren't the only part of the octopus that thinks. The skin does too. Octopus camouflage is the best in the animal kingdom. Not just color, texture as well. An octopus can match a rock, a patch of algae, a piece of coral, adjusting shade, pattern, and even the physical bumpiness of its skin to match what's behind it. It can do this in under a second. The skin achieves this with layers. On top are chromatophores, tiny sacs of pigment each surrounded by muscle. Contract the muscle and the pigment stretches out, showing color. Relax it, and the color vanishes. There can be hundreds of these packed into an area the size of a pencil eraser, each individually controlled. Underneath are iridophores and leucophores, which reflect and scatter light to produce blues, silvers, and whites that pigment alone can't make. It's a living display screen at extraordinary resolution, and the animal can drive it faster than you can blink. An octopus can hold one pattern on the side facing a predator while flashing a completely different pattern on the side facing a rival. 2 messages, 1 body, at the same time. And now the fact that makes all of that almost impossible. Octopuses are, as far as we can tell, colorblind. Their eyes contain only a single type of photoreceptor. With one photoreceptor type, you cannot distinguish colors the way we do. They should be seeing the world in something like grayscale. So how does a colorblind animal produce a flawless color match with its own body? There are 2 leading explanations, and both are remarkable. The first is that they may be extracting color information from the way their eyes blur light. Different wavelengths focus at slightly different distances through a lens, an effect called chromatic aberration. Octopus pupils are oddly shaped, and their eyes can change shape, and the proposal is that they're effectively sampling that blur to work out color, using a defect as a sensor. The second is stranger, and there's direct evidence for it. Their skin can detect light on its own. Octopus skin contains opsins, the same family of light-sensitive proteins found in the retinas of eyes. Light landing on the skin can cause chromatophores to expand without any input from the eyes at all. And recent electrophysiological work on octopus arms found that the nerve cord running through the arm responds strongly to light hitting the skin, with blue light producing the strongest response. So the arm is registering light. Not seeing images, but sensing illumination through the skin itself. Which means an octopus may be picking up information about its surroundings through its entire body surface, and adjusting its appearance based partly on what its skin detects, rather than what its eyes see. The camouflage may not be a picture the brain composes, it may be something closer to a distributed reflex running across the surface of the animal. An animal that tastes with its arms, senses light with its skin, and makes decisions in 8 places at once. Now let's talk about the body, because it's built on a principle no vertebrate has access to. An octopus has no bones, no internal skeleton, no external shell. The only hard part is its beak, and that means the size of the hole it can pass through is limited by exactly one thing, the size of that beak. A large octopus can force its entire body through a gap not much bigger than a coin. That's the actual reason for the escape stories. Not just clever lids, but the fact that any opening at all is potentially an exit. Combine boneless with intelligent, and you get an animal that is genuinely difficult to contain. Octopuses in captivity have been documented squirting water at lights they found annoying until the lights shorted out. They have been recorded taking food they were offered and then stuffing it down the drain in apparent disapproval. They dismantle equipment. They open jars from the outside, and from the inside, there's a species that collects discarded coconut shell halves, carries them stacked underneath its body while it walks awkwardly across the seabed, and then assembles them into a shelter when it needs one. Carrying an object because it will be useful later is a serious cognitive act. It requires holding a future situation in mind. They also appear to recognize individual humans. In one well-known case, an octopus consistently behaved differently toward 2 different keepers who were dressed identically, favoring one and squirting the other. They also engage in behavior that looks a lot like play, repeatedly pushing an object into a current just to watch it come back around. So put it together. An animal with a nervous system split across 9 centers, a body that can taste with its limbs and sense light with its skin, a display surface it can rewrite in milliseconds, no skeleton, and a mind that solves problems, uses tools, and remembers faces. And now the part that changes everything. Most octopus species live 1 to 2 years. That's it. The common octopus averages 1 to 2. Small tropical species can be gone in 6 months. The giant Pacific octopus, the longest lived, reaches around 3 to 5 years, and that's the record. And they don't die of old age in any gradual sense. What happens is far more deliberate. Behind an octopus's eyes sit a pair of small organs called the optic glands. For most of the animal's life, they regulate growth, but after the octopus reproduces, they switch function entirely, releasing a cascade of hormones that shuts the animal down. The digestive system stops working, the animal stops eating. A female stops hunting completely and stays with her eggs, cleaning them and pushing water over them for weeks or months while she starves. The body deteriorates, and by the time the eggs hatch, she is dead. This was demonstrated in a way that leaves little room for doubt. In 1977, a researcher named Jerome Wodinsky surgically removed the optic glands from female octopuses that had already laid their eggs and stopped feeding. They abandoned their eggs, they started eating again. They gained weight, and they lived roughly 5 to 6 months longer than they should have. For an animal whose entire adult life is about a year, that's an enormous extension, which tells us this isn't exhaustion and it isn't bad luck. It's a mechanism. There is an organ inside the octopus whose job, at a certain point, is to end it. The evolutionary reasoning is debated, but one leading suggestion is uncomfortable and makes sense. Octopuses eat other octopuses, including juveniles. An adult that lived for years alongside its own hatchlings would be competing with them and quite possibly eating them. Removing the parent from the ocean protects the next generation from the previous one. So now bring it all the way back around, because here's what that short life actually costs. An octopus builds a mind from nothing. It hatches, and in most species it gets no parenting at all, because the parent is dead or dying. Everything it learns, every problem it works out, every trick it develops for opening a shell or escaping a predator or hunting a particular kind of crab, it works out alone. And then, in a year or two, that entire accumulated understanding is deleted. Nothing is passed on. The next generation starts from zero and figures the whole thing out again from scratch. Compare that with us. Nothing we do is invented from nothing. Everything you know came from someone else. Language, fire, tools, farming, writing, all of it handed down. Our species isn't powerful because any individual human is brilliant. It's powerful because we can stack knowledge across generations, and each generation starts higher than the last. Octopus can't stack anything. Every single one starts at the bottom. So the question that hangs over all of this isn't why octopuses are so intelligent, it's what they would have become with time. Give that architecture a 30-year lifespan and parents that survive to teach their young, and the ability to pass information forward instead of losing it, and you're describing something the ocean has never seen. It didn't happen. Not because the intelligence isn't there, but because the clock is too short and there's no way to hand anything down. There's a second kind of mind on this planet. It's been here far longer than us. It sees with its skin, thinks with its arms, and rewrites its own body in real time. And it forgets everything, every single time, and starts again.